Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Davison. You're watching Conversations in Pop Culture, and yes, I am hard to kill. And before I introduce my guest, I do want to remind everybody this episode is brought to you by Pocket Jack Comics, who have books like Palace of the Golden Princess and White Lily, and can find their books at pocketjackcomics.com or on Kickstarter because Preston Poulter does some amazing comic writing and works, and his books are absolutely beautiful on the outside and the inside. And I do not think you will be disappointed, in particular if you like Dungeons and Dragons, because it's got that kind of vibe to them. But enough about that, because I have with me comic creator Chris Curtis. So welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it's been a while, man. It's been what, like 2 years? We were saying off air?
Yes, yep, 2 years.
Yeah, so obviously a lot has happened in 2 years. I think the last time we were speaking about jazz and that, and I don't think the first Kickstarter was successful, but I think you have funded 3 issues now of jazz in those 2 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
But that we're going to talk a little bit about that in a second here. But I figure I would let you introduce yourself because you do have a Kickstarter going on right now, Dream Match Revolutions, which we're going to get to talk about. I'm a big wrestling fan, but before we get into that, I figured I would let you introduce who you are, because there's people who know who you are, there's people who don't know who you are, and so let's just get everybody up to speed before we really start suplexing people.
That's fair. Okay, well, as you stated, my name is Chris, and I am the owner, CEO of a defunct indie comic company, in parentheses, called Crystal Inc. I write many things, notoriously known for jazz. And Dream Match Revolution. We have Good Blood Money. And recently, before we did Dream Match 2, I started a new series called Braveheart Exile. So I do a lot of manga adjacent comics. But starting next year, I'll be moving to Western for the second half of the year. So we're going to see how that goes. But other than that, when I'm not writing, I'm playing a bunch of retro video games and reading manga that I'll probably never finish.
Alrighty. So obviously we're gonna get into some of that. Obviously, yeah, let's start a little bit with that actually, because I am curious. Because when you say manga adjacent, I like the term American manga, meaning that, I mean, and I know it's a controversial term, but I'm curious how you feel about it. Is that I think you could have an American manga. I think if you're drawing and writing in a particular style, whether it's coming out of Japan or out of America, if it's that style, because that's how I view jazz, to be honest, is that I viewed it very much like an American manga, very similar to Carmen America's, very similar to what Tyler Carpenter does with Girl with the Mega Fists. And so I'm curious how you feel about that term, because I think that's actually a more accurate term versus manga adjacent.
I forgot that was even a term. When we first spoke 2 years ago, I was very much American manga guy. And in the 2 years since then, I've had this really big journey of trying to discover what that really meant to my audience and to people that I came across who were readers and buyers of comic books. And I pulled away from that a little bit because the American manga ecosystem is very vast and very spread apart, and there's no real actual pathway or goal or theme amongst it. I think it almost feels like emulation versus us organically making American manga, so to speak. We haven't figured it out in a market sense. So I said manga adjacent, but American manga is close enough to what it's supposed to be. But
no, that's fine. I was just curious about the term because, again, I'm a manga reader. I read a lot of digital manga. It's just easier. It's on my iPad. It's transportable. It costs me $4 a month, and I could pretty much get anything Shonen Jump wise, and it's wonderful for $4 a month. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I just find it fascinating, right? Because I find the manga style in comics and all that stuff, and even elements of it being introduced even into Western to be fascinating. Because I'm one of those kids that was going to Barnes and Noble for the last 25 years of his life, and I saw the manga section eat up the graphic novel section slowly.
Yeah, if you go back there now, it's almost back to normal.
Really? Because the last time I went to my Barnes & Noble was like a month ago. I would say that it was like 50-50. And when I was like 8 years old, 9 years old buying manga, it was like the little shelf in the corner with like maybe like the top 3 or 4 series. And now like the manga shelf and it's like double the size of the graphic novel shelf. I find that so fascinating.
Oh no, I misheard. I didn't hear the Barnes and Noble part. No, yeah, no. Barnes and Noble is the only company I've seen still keep up with manga shelves being as big as they are. I was thinking about like Walmart and Target last year and the year prior, where they went like full on manga like shelves, and they have now diminished down to like a small section now.
I don't remember Target having manga. Like I go to Target frequently and I don't really see manga in Target all that often, but I'm not also looking for it in Target, so maybe that's why. But I digress. But I do want to get into your comic book that you got going on Kickstarter, because that's what I think is the most interesting stuff right now. So obviously we have Dream Match Revolution, and this is the second issue. And before we dive into it, what's going on with it and everything, what is the basic concept? Because it is a wrestling comic. And I do love wrestling. For those who don't know me, I'm a huge wrestling guy. I'm a Cena mark. It's all right. We can all get over it. Everybody can point their finger and you can say you can't see me because, well, we're just doing audio today. But anyway, you can explain your book.
Certainly. So Dream Match Revolution is a inspirational story that is made to give the reader ammo into fighting and finding their own dreams, so to speak. In Dream Match Revolution, you follow a rookie wrestler who is underperforming at the behest of her general manager. And her only goal when she joined the company is to wrestle her idol. And she can't wrestle her idol if she's not allowed to, so to speak. So she has a chance meeting with her idol, and her idol tells her that for you to achieve your dream to wrestle me, you're going to have to start winning. And if you're too afraid to win to get what you want, then you were never worth a damn in the first place. So it's made to pull the reader off of the sidelines in their own lives and to kind of get a introspective of what it looks like to stand up for yourself.
So let's get a little bit into it, because obviously the main character is Faith, and she's kind of in a hot streak in Diamond Heights Pro Wrestling. And I don't know if she kind of fell off her hot streak or if she's building up steam, but it's kind of like she's now gotten repackaged in the promotion due to kind of, I guess, maybe not reaching her maximum heights, for lack of a better word. I mean, feel free to correct me at any point on this. And to go into wrestling, I mean, there are ideas in wrestling where a wrestler, isn't working particularly, and they got the skill set, but then they got to get repackaged. And so I find this story fascinating in that point, because this happens a lot, where wrestlers get repackaged, redeveloped. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but then they kind of get onto this new path of, achieving something. So what is that like? Because it is a phenomenon that happens in wrestling, and it only happens in wrestling.
Right. No. So actually that's the synopsis for the second issue. But in the first issue, she actually starts to win her match. She has she takes dives, and she decided to not take a dive. So between issue 1 and 2, there's a time jump to where she is now on a hot streak of winning all her matches against her general manager's wishes. So the general manager in this case, as a rookie, she was only given complete reign over who she was and what she wore and how she was presented. So now that she has won all her matches and is being defiant, the general manager has now taken it upon herself to now change her persona and to change her design at will to treat her like a quote real wrestler. So you get to kind of see almost like a pettiness to what a person would do to somebody who's going out of their way to achieve their dreams or to achieve something against an order. And so it's kind of like, hey, if you won't listen to me, then I'm going to just start taking your person away from you little by little. And it's almost like how in the 90s you would see a lot of wrestlers like rebrand, and you knew for a fact that like they didn't want to do it, but it was something that they had to do in behest of, regardless of if they were winning or not. Prime example is the Godfather. That wasn't his favorite persona, but it was something that he had to do because they had stripped him away from the Nation of Domination. So you either do what you're told or you stand up. But in that case, standing up would have been you're fired, and there was nothing, nothing else going on. So in that aspect, yeah. But just in Dream Match's sense, you just kind of see what power does when someone's trying to tear someone down little by little.
Yeah, let's talk about this also, because obviously, I mean, this is now her story of also trying to get over, adapting to this new gimmick, also dealing with a new character. And it's a really interesting circumstance in wrestling. I mean, we've seen this. I mean, I'm a wrestling fan, and it's interesting when a person gets a new identity and then they kind of make it their own and they embrace it and they're getting over and they're winning matches and they're dealing with it because it is something that is that. So what is that? Because it creates an interesting story. And that's what I find fascinating, because it is wrestling culture. And this is a much more probable, situation than others than other wrestling stories that I've read.
Could you revise the question one more time?
No, I was just curious about, because what I appreciate about this is that she's getting rebranded, and she now has to figure out almost how to get over with this new character. And I find it so interesting because the book is rooted in wrestling culture, right? And there's something to be said about when a book is rooted in actual wrestling culture, the wrestling stories behind it. We've seen this in the last 5 years in WWE in certain ways. I mean, LA Knight is a great example of this. And so what is that like? Because when I'm reading this book and I'm seeing this book, I'm like, man, I've lived this in the last 5 years and I've seen it on television. And that's what's so interesting about your book.
Okay. So what it's like is when you are trying to achieve your dreams, you want to get to what you're shooting for with yourself in the most intact way. And so if you get to where you need to be at, but you're not who you were when you started, a lot of times that defeats the purpose of you going for that goal, because you're not the person who started the goal. So Faith's whole thing is, I don't want to be Gemini. I do not want to be what you have manufactured. I want to get to where I want to get to as myself, as clear as possible. And I'm being forced to do this. And it looks like a name change in the first few chapters, but over time she has to battle with every other change that is given to her. She even has to look at a heel and a face change or turn at some point. That's a little bit of a spoiler warning. But
So let's actually talk about this, because there's a theory in wrestling called towing the company line, and that's what's so interesting, right? Is that as a writer, what is that like? Because we've seen people toe the company line. And I mean, Cody Rhodes is a great example of this, right? He was putting whiskey in his water bottle trying to get fired from WWE because he didn't want to toe the company line anymore. And he didn't want to make his $2 million and be a WWE lifer. And that's why he ultimately left, right? Because that's what I find to be absolutely amazing, is that this whole issue is her now, and then you kind of drop the spoiler of her wanting to pull the company line. and fighting it because she wants her identity and she wants to get over her way. And that's the, I mean, it makes a great story because it's just so authentic.
Yeah, well, she actually stopped towing the line in the very first chapter, and so you're looking at everything coming her way going forward because she refused to follow the one narrative, which was lose your matches. We'll let you know when it's your time to shine.
No, I mean, and she's dealing with the consequences. So I mean,
Right.
and
And consequences is the name of this exact issue because she's now being forced to wrestle the Diamond Heights enforcer, whose name is Boycott, who's on the cover of this chapter.
So let's get into that too, because obviously now she's facing consequences, and as a result of that, you know, she's now forced to wrestle somebody who maybe it's going to be a squash match, maybe it's going to be a competitive match, it's going to be a complicated match to some degree. The stakes are pretty high, and now you're in this kind of crazy circumstance a little bit, and it's all like navigating that, and it's being in the ring, and it's getting to the end goal, right?
Right.
So
Right.
because I mean, I don't want to ruin too much. I mean, I'm trying to like not ruin what happens. I mean, I don't want to be that guy. Like,
oh no. If so this comic book, like if you're in the culture, you can kind of see it a mile away on what's gonna come. I have not tried to put too many twists and turns on something that people are familiar with. When you have people who are not into the culture itself, it's a brand new thing that they get to experience, either with wrestling fans or just by themselves. And it's just the most dramatic theatrical thing that I think works best in comics.
fair enough. And then the other thing I want to talk about with the book is that, you know, other people have done wrestling books and they've done it with men. And this is obviously female wrestling and women's wrestling. And I'm a big fan of women's wrestling. I enjoy, you know, places like Girl Fight. I've enjoyed places, you know, other people and other promotions that are all women. Joshi wrestling places in Japan, you know, I thoroughly enjoy. And so, what is that like? Because I think it also provides a different perspective in this day and age when you have it more just females wrestling and women's wrestling just versus the men's. And I'm curious even the rationale behind that, because I think it's interesting to take that perspective versus a masculine and male perspective.
Well, so me writing women wrestlers is just my actual writing style. I predominantly write female characters in protagonist and like antagonist roles. I don't have an issue writing men. I just feel better writing women. It's much easier. I can't really explain it. Some people have read my stuff and have been like, okay, cool. Now I see why you do what you do. But women's wrestling, especially in the last couple years, has almost been at the top level of like men's wrestling, if not better, because what we're used to in as far as women's wrestling has now been subverted to wanting more. And this is not just in women's wrestling. Even like the WNBA got a huge buff in the last couple years. People are wanting to see women do the most regular things, and they're willing to put time and money into it. But you know, men's wrestling is fine. It's just it has gotten very shallow at certain points. Women's wrestling can be shallow, but like as far as like men's wrestling, it's kind of been, you know, 1-2 style.
Let me ask this too, because I also think, and feel free to call me out on this, is that if you have, I mean, I feel that to some degree, if you have a men's wrestling book, you have to be more gritty to some degree with it. You also have less places to hide as a artist and as a comic writer, in a men's wrestling book. It has to almost be bone to bone contact to a degree. Where I feel with women's, wrestling and women's comic book writing, for instance, you might have a little bit more maneuverability. And then the other thing too is that you also have more cover options, and you might also have more art options to a degree as well. And when you're building a comic book, I mean, I don't think that these things can just be brushed aside, if that makes any sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. Uh, a fine example is you've heard of Tap or Die, right?
Oh yeah. Stokes book, right?
Well, Stokes' book, yes, story by me. That was actually my prototype for what Dream Match is now. But as you said, when you do
it's a grittier book. It's a grittier book.
It's a grittier book, and it's not something that I was like that it fit the way that I write certain people. You have to have an edge, and you have to have the edge almost the entire time. When you do women, you can actually maneuver the edge to certain characters, and then you can have different personalities that are not of that edge, and it just makes for a much better experience.
I mean, to go even further, and since you brought up Tap and Die, Stokes, when and there's nothing wrong with the book, right? But when he does a suggestive sexual female cover, and it's an awesome cover, I don't have a problem with it. The cover doesn't fit. To be honest, it really doesn't fit in the rest of those covers. And this is and then I think Stokes did a nude cover when he ran that campaign, and it didn't fit, right? And this is what I mean. And it's not, it just didn't fit, right? And I don't want to like attack somebody when they can't defend themselves. But when you have a book like your book, you could have a nude cover, and you could have, it's an all-female wrestling promotion for the most part, and it's a female wrestling book. So if you have a sexy girl on a cover, it makes complete sense. Like, and that's why I think this is also interesting, because from the business perspective, I mean, you got I'll show the cover right now, like this right here, everybody. This is, this cover makes sense in your book.
Yeah. Originally I was gonna do do actual raunchiness. I was gonna have some of those lewd moments when I was first trying to like theorize how I want to do it. And the more that I did, the more I was like, well, I think the people in my book, not to criticize like other people, I think when you have an all women's story, you really should shy away from, unless the story calls for it, you really should shy away from those moments, because that may take away from the impact that's probably more important than the shock value of like a breast. So actually, I in the very first campaign, I had people that were like, "Oh wow, you don't have a nude cover at all. Like that's so new." And I was like, "It's not new. I just felt like the story didn't need it." And you'll never have a moment in the series where that's prevalent.
This is so interesting, right? Because I don't know how much you know about me, but I know Ariel X. Ariel X, not to get too crazy with this, but she ran Ultimate Surrender with Kink, and then she does her own thing, Evolve Fights. Obviously, it's competitive wrestling that is pornographic in nature, for lack of a better word. Real competitive wrestling, real grappling, all that stuff. And then there's nudity and some other stuff that happens in that, right? So somebody left a comment on my YouTube and said, "Oh, it's such a shame that women's wrestling came to this." And my response to the person was like, "What are you talking about? It's not like anybody forced Ariel X to do this, but at the same time, I don't want the women in WWE to be topless. Like, so because it's not necessary. But if you want that and you want to do an all nude female wrestling book, if the story calls for it, who cares, right? Because but like that I find it so interesting and actually quite refreshing that you're like, I don't really need to do this in this story, because there's no point in this to have nudity. Like it doesn't add anything to the story.
Right.
So what is that like for you? Because that's kind of a cool thing to some degree in today's age in Kickstarter land.
I mean, like, do I still have covers that are like that on certain stories? Yeah. My rule has always been, if the book itself in the interiors doesn't have a nudity or doesn't have a certain rating, then all of my variant covers have to follow that exact same rating. I've never liked just having them just to have them, even though Kickstarter backers go crazy for them, which is it is a marketing or selling style. Which once again, I'm completely cool with whoever does it. I do it too, but as long as my story involves it, then I will have at least one, if not several. My only like mature rated book is Good Blood Money, so that one will have multiple covers like that. But Dream Match, even though it has all women wrestlers, I mean, even on this campaign, I had I forgot the Japanese wrestler, but she posed nude with her championship belt covering her, and it was supposed to be a like physique statue, but people found it sexy. So when I put Boycott in the very same cover, it was to have that same look where it's like, yeah, I know she's naked under the belt, ha ha ha, but it was supposed to be physique. So people who are part of the culture will look at it and go, oh, I get that. People who are not part of the culture will look at it and go, ooh, that's sexy. And
So
it's all about spreading it out thin.
you mentioned something interesting, right? I'm going to ask you a question in which that, and I think you touched on it, but there is a level of integrity, right? That I think people need to have. And I don't really know, and I'll be honest with you, and this is just my viewpoint, and feel free to disagree with me, but I feel that a bunch of people have lost some integrity in Kickstarter, where they will break rules, and that if your book has no nudity, but you do a nude cover, it's almost like false advertising to some degree, because what you're selling is that, and Xenoscope is guilty of this too, in which that it's like there's no nudity inside the book, yet you have a topless cover. And to some, I mean, I feel integrity gets lost a little bit, and I get that people want it, but at the same time, you mentioned it, and I'm just curious, even like how you came to that conclusion, because I think it's a good thing to kind of be honest and say what's on the cover is going to be what you get in the book.
When you do Kickstarters, you learn pretty fast that there are people who will buy your book and never open it, or they'll at least buy two copies, one cover they like, one that they can just open up and read the whole thing in, and then they'll just collect them. So
Well,
it's a large audience of people who just like to collect nude covers, and you just want to give them as much as you can because it does bump your funding up. So if your main goal is to make more money, you're going to do the thing that makes more money.
See, it's interesting that you bring that up. I have a very different opinion on that. I actually think that actually is killing the collector's market and the value market of your books. I actually think it's poisoning it, because when you provide more and more and more content, things become less and less and less special, and they're easier to get, right? So if everybody has a nude cover by artist X, there's nothing special about it. It used to be that it was special, and that's my problem with the whole thing. I have a very different opinion, and I've experienced this because I was very heavy on bad girl art, and that market has collapsed, and I don't think it's coming back so quickly. And even collectible covers and other stuff, and it's not just indie. It's the fact that I can go to DC Comics and get 3,000 copies of a book and have my own variant made, and I legit can do it tomorrow morning if I wanted to. And I think that's actually destroyed the collector's market, the value market, the flipping market, and I think I think it's a problem, and I don't really know, and I get everybody wants to fund their books, but I mean that's just how I view it, because I've lived through it on the other side as a seller, a reseller, a collector, and all that stuff, and I've experienced the just watching the well get poisoned. But I mean, I could talk about this for hours. I don't know how many people are interested in my theory.
It's probably the same amount of people who will buy a nude cover and forget the book right after that.
Again, and then my other thing about that is that why would I want a drawing when I could see the real thing? So, you know.
That too.
I'm sorry. It's too easy. It's too easy. But I want to get back to your book because I think it's so interesting, right? About this whole thing where now we're just getting to the consequences, and she's got to work her way to face, you know, her idol essentially, and this is her journey pretty much.
Yeah. So, but her idol is still her big goal. Her idol is Luna, who is the Diamond Heights Pro Champion. So she has to essentially rank herself going forward to be able to have that opportunity. But of course, the general manager in this second chapter is a jerk and has sent one of the, I think it was the contender for that same belt, who's high up too, has sent her down to kind of teach the rookie a lesson. So it's one of those chapters where you're wondering, does she have what it takes to take down somebody who's leagues ahead of her?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's the whole rookie, exciting, interesting story, and we're gonna see what happens. I mean, it's Day of Reckoning all over again.
Ah, right.
I mean, I'm speaking in code, right? I mean, this is how we speak in code, right?
No, you're making sense to me. I hope other people understand it.
I try to speak in code. You know, Penn and Teller taught me well. You know, sometimes you got to speak in code, and you know, hey Firefly, how you doing? So terrible. That whole game had one of the greatest soundtracks ever.
Oh wait, I have that on GameCube still. I'm still an OG. I forgot about that. Go me.
It's Breaking Benjamin did like the whole soundtrack for that. It's great.
Oh, it's one of the people. It's one of my favorite soundtracks in any wrestling game. It's like top 3.
They did the whole thing. It's great. And then that whole game was just amazing. But anyway, I digress. But obviously I don't want to ruin too much because we're gonna see what happens here. You know, obviously people are standing in our way, but I don't want to dive and then go too deep into that way. But I find it so interesting, right? Because obviously, I mean, it's a lot of wrestling culture. And the other thing that I think is cool is that right now wrestling is really, really popular. And people think WWE is slacking in certain ways, but I mean, we got John Cena's retirement in the next 4 weeks. We got all these great wrestlers, and WWE is killing it. They just signed a big deal with ESPN. And so what is that like too? Because people are really into wrestling now. And it's been on the rise, I would say, for the last 4 or 5 years. And so doing a wrestling book right now is really cool because people are really interested in wrestling. And so what is that like for you from a business perspective, from a writing perspective, and even, you know, just getting people to read it because it's just an easier read, I think, right now.
Wrestling, it has been popular. The only issue is that the ticket prices have not been popular. So when there are people who want to get into it, but they can't, I try my best to push the book to them. I've been to a lot of my own smaller, indie wrestling brands, trying to push and promote the book. I even have indie wrestlers in the story, with their permission, and it makes selling the book much easier to that side, because I want to get people that are paying for grassroots wrestling versus paying for like Fed wrestling, because those people understand what indie really means. So far it's been great. I have a market that's not on Kickstarter. You know, Kickstarter is just for like production. So once this book's done, I can run back to them and start selling over there. They have actually bought out multiple times. I have sold out a dream match out of all my other books. It's my most popular one amongst these people outside, of the internet. So I would love for them to be Kickstarters, but if they can just like wait a few months, I'll bring it right to them and they'll love it. And then they'll sit around waiting for the next one.
So let's actually talk about that, because I don't think Kickstarter is the be all end all, right?
No, it's not.
I think a lot of people do not understand that Kickstarter is just the starting point, and you could make money on Kickstarter, or it's supposed to help with the production. Because, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of it is that you lay out money to produce your book, you raise money on Kickstarter either to recoup some of the money you laid out, either to finish your book or to print your book, and then now you have your IP printed. Ideally, you want to print more than what you did on Kickstarter, and then you take it to shows or through your website, through eBay, wherever else, or comic shops, and then you go on and move forward from there, right? I mean, is that the basic trajectory?
Yeah, it's the way it should be. A lot of us got this like perverted like viewpoint of like I need to utilize this as my only market, and then occasionally I'll probably try to go do a convention, and when they do that, and then they don't make the amount that they need or want, then it all of a sudden becomes personal. Versus, hey man, you really should use Kickstarter for a complete stepping stone, and then when you get what you got, it makes more sense to go out and get something tangible, because it's like getting a reader in your face is so much better and easier than trying to get somebody online, and that's just how I've always been.
No. Again. I get all sides of this, right? Because I'm an online kid, and it's again. I mean, I used to do stuff in person, and I find that I'm more influential as a podcaster than I was as a presenter at an anime con. And I could reach more people, and I could help more people, and I could do more good as an interviewer than I can do presenting a PowerPoint at a convention. But and it's not that getting somebody in their face is gonna, but I also, it changes that doing an interview live and in person and audio and video also changes the game dramatically, because you can actually see another person, for the most part. So, but I don't disagree. I just think people need to use every avenue they got, because there's so many.
Right.
But I was just curious, because I'm a big indie wrestling fan. I think IWTV is amazing. My home wrestling company is in St. Louis, so go figure that out, right? I'm living in DC at the time, and my home wrestling federation or company or platform is in St. Louis, right?
Right.
Because the world's a very vast place. So, but no, I was just curious. But I think what you mentioned is so interesting in that regard. So let's even talk about Kickstarter though, because I am curious where you see Kickstarter going. Because I'm not going to sugarcoat this, no chaser, but this year's been tough on a lot of levels right now. People are very stressed out with their money. At least I think they are. I don't know. Maybe you're different here, but I'm stressed out with my money. I know a lot of people, including myself, who have been laid off from their jobs, and the holidays are coming up. And I'm curious how you feel about Kickstarter, because I've seen people really struggle. I've seen campaigns not do well. I've seen people have 100 less backers than normal. So I'm just curious how Kickstarter has been for you, because I think it's a complicated year.
I've heard that a lot of times this year, but with my margins being the way that they are, I'm at where I'm at because this is where I need to be at. So I'm considered very low, by a lot of people's standards, but I'm like high in my own margins. So I don't really see like a lesser amount of backers. Matter of fact, I've actually been getting more backers this year than I've ever had. But I do know that around this time of year, especially with a lot of things going on in the US, having a campaign is either it's up or it's down, but it's, it'll trend one way and that'll be that. So, but I still released a Kickstarter regardless because once again, I have low margins, so I can take what people would consider a loss because a loss to you is a win to me. But if I were bigger, then sure, I would probably be like, oh no, this is terrible. Like what what do I do? But I don't see a problem.
So the reason why I asked the question is that I'm just curious because I ran a Kickstarter. It wasn't for me for this show. Got a lot of shit for it. Said a lot of shit. Pay to play, which is a complicated, debated issue that nobody wants to talk about in this sector anymore. Because they all know I'm right, and I'll quote Colin Hurd: "It doesn't matter how many times I'm right. You're still going to argue with me." So, but. Table and Colin Hurd. The reason why I ask is that I'm just curious because you're producing comic books, and I just want. I mean, I have a different perspective as an outsider looking. I'm looking into the house, and you're looking out of the house. If that makes any sense. Right. So that's why, because with Diamond having issues, a lot of people getting screwed out of money. Both, I just had, I think, Alfred Page on, and he used to go through Diamond, and now he's entered the Kickstarter game. And so I'm just curious how you see all this, because I don't know where it's going. I really don't. And I'm so curious because it's a mess that's not going to resolve itself in the next week.
No, it's not. But that's a part of the market that I'm not familiar with. Because once again, I run very low level, and I would like to probably go higher level at some point, but don't know if I will.
Do you feel that with Diamond now being not great and Lunar really not necessarily being great either per se, that it has definitely forced? Do you feel that it's going to force more entry into Kickstarter? Do you feel that more people are going to be turning to crowdfunding? Do you feel that companies are going to get more creative with it? I mean, because I don't know how you see it, or do you say, I'm going to just do me and the market's going to do whatever because I don't really care, right?
It sounds mean to say that, but that's exactly how I feel. It's not that I'm not like indicative to the common layman when it comes to Kickstarter and like crowdfunding, but my interactiveness is so hands off as of right now that that's just where I fit in. And I don't get into a lot of like interactions or conversations about it when people that are bigger than me or have way more at stake with crowdfunding and Kickstarter do. Cause it's like, what can I say about something that I'm not even doing like, the most of?
Oh, no, I'm just curious, as I was stating, because, again, I'm always looking in, right? And I'm not looking out. And I have a viewpoint that as somebody buys and sells comics and buys and sells cards, I have a very different reaction to what has happened in the comic industry in the last 5 years. And it's not a positive one. It's really not. And I've said this before, I think we are at the platinum age of storytelling. And I think we are at the what's below bronze? What's below bronze? Coal. We are at
wood. We're at wood.
Wood. We are at the wood age of the amount of content out there, meaning that the best stories I think are coming out right now. And the reason and some of the largest number of the best stories are coming out. And the reason why is that so many stories are coming out, right? So if 10% out of everything that is published is great, and you have 1 million stories being published, you have 100,000 great stories. But the production level, the selling level, the collectability level is the wood age. And it's weird because some of the greatest stuff is being written right now, but there's also abundance of it. And this is how I feel about comics, is that I don't know what's good anymore.
No, but also with comics, not knowing what's good anymore, now you get to make that exciting plunge into try to figure out what is good again.
Not for $25 an issue.
No, well, that's the price of the game.
Not for $25 an issue. I'm sorry. like I'll take a risk for 15, but not 25. 25 is a little too high for me. Especially if you're gonna do 6 issues at $25. That's a lot of money to ask.
It is, and I don't know when you talk about like that's called buyer's trust, and when you talk about that, then that's an actual integral problem with a lot of campaigns where people are presenting a product one way and then releasing it a different way, and it even goes back to the covers you mentioned. So with that being said, I do have something to say about that, where that can also affect a lot of people down the line when we have people like that who are presenting a book or an IP a certain way, and then it's not being a way that it's supposed to be done. So yeah, I see that.
Let me tell you where I lose trust, right? And I'm curious where you lose trust in Kickstarters. I lose trust when you tell me the book. I back in November, you say the book's going to come out in April, and then it comes to me in, November of the following year. It comes a year late. I lose trust there. I lose trust when my book becomes damaged and you give me an attitude to replace it. I lose trust there. I lose trust when you charge me $25 and then all of a sudden at a convention I find out you're charging $15, and I was there supporting you on Kickstarter and being supportive. I lose trust when I am promised stretch goals and stretch goals aren't delivered. I lose trust when also I find out that numbers are not matching on certain things. So you say there's 100 copies, but then I find out there's 150 out there. I lose trust there. And then finally, where I lose trust, and the big one I lose trust on, is that you then go to a publisher and it goes to Diamond or Lunar and it's $5, and I just gave you $25 for the same issue. And it might have a different cover, but that's 80% less than I supported you, and the cover is legitly just not black and white. So, I mean, those are the 6 for me where I lose trust. And it doesn't take long to figure out. It takes about 3 issues for me to lose trust, and that's me being generous.
Which is fair, yeah.
It's so, and I've witnessed it. I've witnessed it over and over and over again, and I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of it. And this is why I pulled back. I mean, as a consumer and not even as a business, I've pulled back. And then on top of that, also, I pulled back backing, even retail packages, because I'm like, I can't sell your books. There's not enough juice for me to sell your books. And it's like, I need a 60% discount to pick up somebody's book on a retail package. If you can't get me to 60%, like, there is no meat for me to eat.
Right.
So, like, I mean, and this is just honesty. It's a problem that I don't think that people on Kickstarter think about.
Because it's not brought to them in a very attractive way, so they don't really see it until it's too late.
I think that's part of it. I think the other part is that there's all these podcasts that talk to other comic creators. They don't talk to somebody selling on eBay full time.
Right.
I don't go to my burger shop to fix my car. I go to the mechanic to fix my car, right?
If you can find me a burger shop that does that, I'll do that too.
I mean, you order your hamburger and they fix your car. That'd be great, right?
That'd be awesome.
See, this sounds like a business idea right now. While your car is getting fixed, please order a burger. You get a 10% discount if you're getting an oil change on your first oil change. So as the oil's being changed, you get to eat your burger and fries. But we don't use the oil from your car to make your hamburger or the fries. We keep those things separate.
Peanut oil changes do well.
I don't know. Maybe I'll just buy a Tesla. It'll probably be faster and easier. I was going somewhere and my friend decided to test his Tesla self-driving car and merge it onto the GW bridge. So good, good. That was a fun day. Um, Apparently the car could merge into a busy bridge perfectly fine. So go figure that one out. But anyway, not the point. Um, but yeah, so I was just curious about that because that I'm always curious, right? And then I do want to show covers because covers are fun, right? So we got this one, which is cover A.
Yep, and that is that is Boycott right there.
So who is that? That's Boycott.
Yeah, that's that is the Diamond Heights Enforcer.
So we got that, and then we got this one right here.
That is Faith as her new persona, Gemini. She's just trying to make the best of it.
Then we got this one right here, which I think is also Faith or Gemini, right? Is it?
Yeah, it's Faith. I also had this done during John Cena's heel run. And then the moment I got it finished and given to me, he went right back to face, and I was pissed off. I almost didn't want to sell this, but I was like, screw it. It's already done.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that too. But what is that like? Because obviously people really enjoyed. So I'll be full disclosure here. I'm a big John Cena guy, as I stated, and I'm purposely picking up a lot of John Cena cards and some other stuff because I know that stuff isn't going to be made again. So what is that like? Because I'll be honest with you, I was happy with that heel run for the brief thing that they did for the 5-6 months they did. I thought it was good. I thought it was solid. And there's people who are going to look back on this and say, well, I'm glad we did it, right?
I did not like the heel run. I mean, I might be.
I'm sorry. I'm being mean. I'm sorry. Please continue.
I might be. It wasn't that I didn't like it. It's the fact that like they didn't do enough with it to where I felt like it had value, and then he just like decided to just go face on like a random week show, and then I was like, well, that was a waste. So it was a weird few months.
But the reason why I bring it up is that when we look back on this, and I think the heel run's actually going to age okay, right? There's going to be a position that I think with that variant is that it's kind of nice when you capture that moment because I'm glad they did it, right? And so that's where I was going with this is that I think it's nice when you do covers and homages and things granted back to a time where something was being done in a unique way that was fun to see, right? I mean, and so what is that like for you? Because if you're at a convention, I mean, his heel run's not going to be forgotten for a while.
No, but also all my variant covers don't move with me when I move outside. So I try to keep them as like Kickstarter exclusive as possible.
But even still, I mean, if something comes to your Kickstarter, I'd be pushing that shit out like crazy, especially right now. I mean, fuck it, I'd be pushing that thing out like freaking hotcakes, man. Because it's Cena related, right? And anything Cena related is gonna move right now. So that's why I bring it up because I think it's smart. So that again, I'm a big John Cena fan. So there we go. And then there's this one which you spoke about also before.
Yeah, I really wish I could remember that damn. She was a Stardom wrestler. I just can't remember who she was.
It's not Aisha Raymond, is it?
You could say the names, and I'm gonna say sure. No, I don't remember who it was. All I know is that she's kind of older. And by older, I'm thinking like 2000s.
It wouldn't be Bull Nakamo, would it?
No, it was no, Bull was not. No, it wasn't her. That one I do know. It was like a red-haired one. It was like Io Sky, but it wasn't Io Sky.
It wouldn't have been. Oh shoot! Yeah. trying to think of who it is. Oh, I have an idea. It's one of 4 people. I can't think of their names off the top of my head. I mean, it's not Jordan Grace, right?
No,
I love Jordan Grace.
no, she was Japanese.
Jordan Grace could be Japanese. How do you know? Look at you.
That's true.
I'm so sorry. This is just terrible. It's just so terrible. Oh my God. I remember Jordan Grace when she wasn't jacked.
Yeah. I remember that too.
Oh my God. Jordan Grace is just a beast. Jordan Grace has an interesting book. She has a dick pic book. I'm not in that book. I want to make that crystal clear to everybody before anybody asks.
She has a what?
Not in that book.
This is new to me.
So the story is that people would send her dick pics. So she said, fuck it. I'll put everybody's dick pic who sent me and like their Twitter handle in a book, and then I'll sell the book.
I get it now.
I thought it was pretty funny because things are funny, right? Like that. I think because I'm not in the book, what do I give a shit? I thought it was hilarious. I just asked her for an interview. That's all I wanted. But I again, but yeah, no. I was just, yeah. So I digress there. But obviously, those are the 4 covers. Then there's a bunch of bundles. Then there's a bunch of other stuff, and then you also have an interesting one that's sold out, which is you can get drawn into the book.
Oh, people love that one.
And so what is that like? Because I mean, you have some rules with that where it can't be anything like a copyrighted character, for instance. And it has to be safe for work, but also the character is going to be somewhat reoccurring.
Yeah. So just like the last campaign, people flocked to it, and then they ended up in the story. People like the art style. People like the direction of the story. People like the comedy aspects of the story. They want to be a part of it. And so every time I do a get drawn or get added into tier, it gets picked up on like the very first day. And I try to do like a very low number because I can't fit 14 different people in here, but 3 or 4 is fine. So this is the second issue. So the 3 people who paid for it last time, they're all showing up in this one, and they're all showing up in various ways. As wrestlers, as referees, as Easter eggs, and it's fun. It's definitely one of my favorite tiers.
No, I mean, again, I've never done one of those. I know people enjoy it, and I know people enjoy getting drawn into things and being part of things because it's kind of cool. At some point I will do it. But I have my own rules, and I'm not going to tell anybody my own rules on that because I have a bunch of inside jokes that I like to put out there. But I digress. This is not about me and my ideas. But yeah, so you have that, and then pretty much anything that anybody wants from that you've done with Jazz, and you've done with your other stuff, and you've done with Blood Money, Good Blood Money, and all that stuff. I mean, anybody can get whatever they want from you, pretty much, right?
Oh yeah, it's always a backlog order.
And then obviously, I mean, we spoke about all this, but I even want to talk about wrestling with you briefly because where do you think we're going with wrestling? Because I think WWE is kind of killing it, but they're kind of not. And they're in a weird space right now because you have a wrestling comic, and I don't really know. I don't watch AEW. I used to, but I just can't. AEW to me is they got so much talent. I just don't know. Tony Khan is not a good booker, is my point. But where do you think we're going with wrestling? Because we're in a weird time now.
If I was to run a company, immediately I would start picking up all of these CMLL and Stardom and Marigold wrestlers immediately. Just immediately. Just start getting them because the future has been looking so much Hispanic Japanese. It's not even funny.
So you'd pull out of there?
I would, and
I
they already are.
I would actually pull out of somewhere else. I would pull out of New England. I would legitly sign. And this is what's crazy, right? I mean, I think that there's a few wrestlers that WWE should be signing right now. Alec Price is one, because Alec Price is just a gift. That guy is just so talented and he's so good, and he's only gotten better. I would sign Akira, because that guy is just wild crazy. And then I would be pulling out of New England. I'd be pulling out of all these like kind of crazy places, right? Like I'd be pulling out of Beyond Wrestling, Wrestling Open, and other stuff, because I think that's where all this is going. And so, I mean, because that's where Christian Casanova came out of. That's where Josh Briggs came out of. That's where Anthony Green came out of. And so like I think that we should legitly just sign exclusive deals with like Wrestling Open and Beyond, because that's where all the talent is.
Right. But the issue being is that when you sign all these guys, what are you going to have them doing with your big bloated roster? You know, like they just signed Joe Hendry and everybody's high-fiving about it. I'm sitting there like, cool. What's he gonna do when they signed Stephanie Vacour and Julia? They were on the top. Now you're looking almost a year later, and only one of them is actually being booked correctly. Julia has been tossed aside, and she's just as good as Stephanie.
But this is how I view it, right? This is how I would do WWE, right? I would do 3-year contracts, right? And so you sign a bunch of people, right? And you're gonna cut 50 to 80% of them. And I know this sounds fucked up and messed up, right? But this is a business, right? So what you have is that you have a 20% retention rate. Or maybe if we're going to be generous, you have a 30% retention rate. So great, you sign people for 3 years, you put them in NXT, you put them wherever. Maybe when they get called to the main roster, you sign them for another 2 years, extend their contracts. But at some point, a bunch of these people just are not going to work out. But you're always having, and then you keep finding the top of the top of the top off of the indies. And like I would have not let Shotzi go. I thought Shotzi was a benefit to WWE in more ways than one. And I just think that, but I think that's what I would do, right? So you're going to have a bloated roster that's very cheap. But because you're going to be paying these people like 100 to 120,000, you know, maybe a year on the top end, or maybe in year 3 you're going to be paying them, but you're going to be paying them in their first year like 60K, maybe 80 in their second, 120,000. You're going to get 3 years out of them. You're going to discover your top talent really quickly, and then you're going to cut the rest. And the deal is that they're going to become bigger stars and they can charge more in the indies, because that's exactly what happens. I mean that's how I would run WWE. And I know it sounds messed up and it sounds mean, and I know it sounds like corporate America, and it is. It's no different than a sales job. The top 10, I mean, Jack Welch talks about this, right? It's you got to promote your top 10% and you fire your bottom 10%.
That would just make like paranoia with like working for the company, and it would make people jump ship more over time.
But so I'll give you an example though, right? Let's say you go to WWE for and you have a 3-year contract. So I'm trying to think of somebody, right? Zack Ryder is a really good example of this, right? And Nick Namath, right? Those guys were in WWE for a while, and then they left, and their rates on the indies and their demand on the indies were off the chart. So they were charging more. Enzo Amore is a good example. The guy charges a lot of money, and his booking fee is crazy. But WWE made him a superstar. And it's no different than if you work for an organization and a podcast. I mean, the Daily Wire, not to get too political here, but Beth Cooper, she left and now she's a superstar. Candace Owens, the same deal, where you leave and now you are a superstar. So that's what I mean. They did it with Cora Jade too. So I don't see any other way, because I want the best talent in the world working for that company.
Yeah, but in doing so, which I agree, but in doing so, you also would eliminate legacy wrestlers over time. Because no one would be there. Like they would take what they would get from the company, and then they would be asked, do you want to still be here, or hey, we got to let you go, and you could do so much better elsewhere. But now we're down 20-year legacies now, because everybody's being tossed left and right.
But I don't know if everybody's going to be tossed out, right? So like so Stephanie Vaquer, she's in the top 10% or the top 30%. She's there, and then there gets a point where we're now she's invaluable to the company, right?
Right.
So Becky Lynch is a good example of this, right? Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins are not performing as they were 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, Seth Rollins, it always gets the crowd and under the crowd's skin one way or another, whether he's a face or a heel. But Becky Lynch, she is, and it has nothing to do with it. They don't have anything for Becky Lynch because the landscape has changed, but Becky Lynch sells merch. So she's not going to be cut because she's invaluable to the company.
True. But going with your leadership, she wouldn't have enough time to be to where she is.
I mean, look, I'll put it this way, right? It's not like 3 years you're in the bottom 10%, you're fired. Like, everybody's going to be in a different time schedule, right? But what it's going to be is that, let's say that we got nothing for you. We're going to just cut you after 3 years, or we're going to extend you for 2 more years, but there's going to get a point where you get cut, right? And that makes sense, right? And WWE needs to cut wrestlers a lot sooner than later. I mean, I'm trying to think of a wrestler who took forever to cut, right?
Kayden Carter. But I like Kayden Carter, but Kayden Carter.
Exactly, right? I mean, Kayden Carter, what was Kayden Carter's contract? Was it like 5 years?
Yeah. And she was kind of hot for like 1, but that also is due to the fact that you have some very bad bookers that are still working for the company, still booking the same matches.
But then you have Lash Legend, who's now coming into her own to some degree.
I'm afraid of, because I love her too. I'm afraid that she's going to get shoehorned into another, not who is he? Bianca Belair storyline or something, and it's not going to feel like her. It's just going to feel like, well, you fit for now.
I mean, look, Jade Cargill, right? That's a good example too. I'm not saying Jade Cargill should be fired after 3 years, right? That's not the issue with Jade Cargill. The issue with Jade Cargill is that Jade Cargill, for her first year, they should have done what they did with Dominic Mysterio. What WWE did with Dominic Mysterio was insane. He was on Monday Night Raw, and then after Monday Night Raw, he was booked on a plane, and it might have even been a chartered plane down to Florida, and he would do NXT training, he'd do NXT, and he'd wrestle on NXT, and then they basically turned him and made him into a superstar, talented wrestler, and he spent like 3 nights down in Florida, and then he went back on the road into Monday Night Raw. So he got the training that was necessary, and they did not do that with Jade Cargill, and that's what they should have done with her.
She didn't feel like she had to because of who she was, and that's kind of in the way too.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I would cut people a lot faster, and I understand you're going to get it wrong sometimes, but you're also going to get it right. Yeah, I would say you're going to get it wrong 50% of the time, being generous, and you're going to get it right 50% of the time. But I think if you do this and you rotate enough pieces around and around and around, you're going to have a much better, more talented roster. And I think there's going to be more spots. And I think it's actually going to save money.
I see that.
And it's going to make my stock price go up.
That's what it was the whole time.
I've been a shareholder for WWE for like 12 years. At $9 a share, everybody. I deserve all the credit in that trade.
Well,
I wrote it up.
I can argue that, though.
I wrote it all the way up, and then I wrote it all the way down, and then I wrote it all the way up again.
I did not.
Were you a shareholder?
I was never.
Don't you wish you were a shareholder?
I still don't.
What, TKO is at like 188 now?
Oh, these are just numbers. I don't even know what they mean.
Oh, it's like 188 a share.
I still don't know what that means.
You go from $9. So a stock price, right? It's what you can buy the stock for, right? So I bought WWE at $9 a share, right? And TKO, I think, is at like 182, 188 now. So $182 a share. So that means your stock went from $9 to $182. That's a really good rate of return, right?
Yes. It's a climate I've never got myself into.
I like money. It's a bad habit of mine. I like money and I like nice things.
I need to like nice things.
You need to?
I need to.
I mean, look, my favorite thing in the world is sitting and on my Sunday and watching football. And like nobody bothers me. It's peaceful, right? But again, but yeah, but I digress here. But I was just curious how you feel the state of wrestling is, because as I stated, I think we're WWE's in a weird place.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like they haven't been there before.
I don't think they care.
No, they don't either. Because what is the alternative?
No. So I'm going to throw a theory to you. My theory is the following: they have a 5-year deal with Netflix, right?
Right.
So we are coming up to the first year end, right? And that is, so they have a 5-year, $5 billion with a renewal with Netflix for another $5 billion. A lot of money, right?
Right.
So that deal is set for another 4 years. So does it really matter if Raw does well right now, if it did well last night, if it does well whenever, or does it matter in year 3, year 4, year 5?
I mean, when you look at their competition as of right now, they can really do less and still make it out every year.
This is how I view it, is that we're going to get really good stories out of WWE in year 4 and year 5 when the Netflix contract renewal is up. So we're going to get amazing stories and amazing concepts and amazing wrestling and stories that we truly love in year 4 and 5 on Monday Night Raw. That we're going to be like Monday Night Football or Monday Night Raw. We're going Raw, right? Because we want to know what's going to happen in this feud between person A and person B. Because right now, there's no reason to do those stories. There's just no reason, because no contract is up. So why would WWE utilize a great story when there's legitimately nothing to be gained from the story?
That's true. So if they can get some competition, then they would have to.
Maybe. I don't even know if they would have to. I think we're going to get those great stories in 2 or 3 years from now, and they're going to be amazing. I'll throw it back to your comic book, right? What if you did $30,000 on your book, right?
That would be scary.
If you did $30,000 on, Dream Match, would you need to do a Kickstarter to fund issue 3 on a monetary level?
Oh no, God, you would never see another book on Kickstarter.
So you could understand now if I'm to equate this, and I think it's a valid question, right? Is that now you can go do something crazy in your book because you have the funds to do it, right?
Right.
And so the consequence for you now taking a risk is minimized.
Yep.
Versus when you go on Kickstarter, you don't have the ability necessarily to take ridiculous risks. So when I ran my Kickstarter for this show, I already had a sponsor, right? Mm-hmm. That was covering my expenditures, and it was just an extension, the Kickstarter to fund me. So there was no risk for me to fund or not fund my Kickstarter, right?
Right.
So there was no risk, and people didn't understand the concept, and people weren't ready to pay for guest spots. But the reason it wasn't that you were paying for a guest spot, it was that I legitimately the year before had 200 people asking me for interviews, and there was just not enough time. So what you were really paying for is the right to be on my show and have the spot you want for like $5, which in reality isn't a lot of money.
I mean, you're right. It's not a lot of money, but it's good startup money.
So the theory of when I ran my Kickstarter was that I said, great, I got 200 guests and I can only interview 100. How do I figure out the 100 that I want to interview? And let's figure out payment on this concept. Because $5 is not a lot of money, and great, if I get 100 people, it's $500. And this covers my StreamYard for the year. And now those 100 people have a spot. I can do another 50 that I can pick, and it solves a problem. And people weren't a fan of that because they didn't realize that, oh, shit, somebody doesn't have the bandwidth to do 200 interviews, and they're just trying to figure out how to navigate it, and money's the ultimate navigator. It determines the marketplace.
Right.
Which is what I think WWE should do. I think money is the ultimate navigator. But I digress. My theories on WWE are very different than everybody else's. I don't really care. I watch Monday Night Raw very rarely, but I know exactly what happens.
That's another problem too, because people are able to pick up on what's going on without having to watch it, and that kind of feeds into the viewership and the culture itself.
I'll ask you a question. Did you see John Cena winning the IC title belt?
Did I watch the match, or did I foresee him doing it?
Did you foresee it?
Yes.
I didn't foresee it, right? I did not think that they were going to do Dominic Mysterio, John Cena. I didn't think that was coming. I wanted it. I just didn't see it coming.
Really? Well, they had been talking about it so much. I was like, okay, just let them win already.
I did not see that match coming. I wanted it, and I thought it would have been a better match. In which I wanted to see Dominic Mysterio win the Last Time Is Now tournament and do it at his last match, and have him either lose to Dominic Mysterio and boost Dominic upward really high, or have him win it and then just leave with the belt and then have a tournament for the IC belt going into the Royal Rumble. But I didn't think they were going to do
it. Do it, they did.
I don't even know what they're going to do with the Last Time Is Now tournament. Because is Gunther in that or no?
He won on yesterday, so he's still in there.
I'm not really a fan. Of. I would have liked to have seen Edge. I think Edge versus Cena would have been great.
Well, Edge, they're trying to say that AEW has not been reached out for Edge, which possibly means that they probably got Edge and they're just trying to lie to us about it.
I don't know. I mean, Cena versus Edge would have been great. as a last match.
Oh, it'd have been perfect. That's the only one I really want.
It would have been great. It would have been great. And I'll be honest, if Bray Wyatt was still alive, Bray Wyatt versus John Cena would have been a great match.
Yep.
I mean, Seth Rollins versus Cena would have been cool.
Yeah, I kind of, I guess. It's not like you're going to get The Rock anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we've already done it, though. We did it twice with Cena versus The Rock.
Oh, the people want to see it again.
I don't. I'll tell you what I really want to see, right? I want to see Paul Heyman versus John Cena.
I'm sorry, Paul Heyman?
Of course.
All right.
Loser eats a bar of soap.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's classic SmackDown. That's classic SmackDown. John Cena and Chris Benoit making Paul Heyman eat soap. Classic SmackDown. But I digress.
I would never see that coming. You're right.
No. So I don't know. I mean, again. Zack Ryder versus Cena would have been awesome.
Did he not win?
He didn't win. LA Knight won. But what's crazy is that, I mean, but it was cool seeing Zack Ryder back. Because I love Zack Ryder.
Well, it needs to be LA. It's most likely LA Knight or Joe Hendry is going to be his last match. The way that they're talking.
So did Dolph Ziggler win?
I did not watch Raw at all. At least not yet. I've been lagging.
It might have. That's a good question because Nick Nemeth versus John Cena would be crazy. So Dolph Ziggler versus Cena would be wild. I don't know what's going to happen. I digress. I mean, again, it's going to be Gunther or LA Knight. I mean, and then it's going to be for the IC title, unless Dominic faces Cena at Survivor Series.
I mean, if he's still there.
It is what it is, but I digress. I want to talk about wrestling because I don't get to talk about wrestling. I was just curious what you thought about this whole thing. Obviously, though, we've been speaking for like an hour, 20 minutes. I do want to give you a chance to promote yourself. Where can people find you, bother you, hit you up, check out the Kickstarter, all that fun stuff. Check you out on social media, all of that.
I am on Instagram, Crystal_Inc. INC. And I'm on Twitter at Crystal Inc. Those are the two main places that I reside in. If you go to my bio and click on my link tree, you can see the other plethora of websites that I'm also on. So if you don't like Instagram, if you don't like Twitter, I am on Facebook and everywhere else. But just check out my link tree and boom, there I am.
And then since it's my show, I'm required to promote myself. So I am Pop Anime Comics on Twitter/X, Pop Anime Comics on Instagram, Pop Anime Comics on Facebook, Pop Anime Comics on the YouTube. And I post a lot on YouTube. I upload a lot on YouTube. A lot of stuff is coming in January. So be on the lookout for that. A lot of content is being released, a lot of micro content. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Furthermore, I do also love my YouTube community page. Post a lot of fun stuff up there. You never know what you will find on that YouTube community page, but I promise you will be entertained. And furthermore, to go even further into this, I have almost 2,000 videos, a lot of interviews, a lot of stuff on YouTube, a lot of micro content. So definitely go to the YouTube stuff, subscribe, means a lot. And there's just so much content out there, and you never know who's going to be on my show, when they're going to be on my show, why they're on my show, and some other cool stuff in that regard. And then TikTok is Pop Anime Comics. And then I do run a business, and this is my business, guys. Look for comics and collectibles. Come shop with us on eBay at Pop Anime Comics Collectibles. And Saturday is Small Business Saturday. So please support my business and cards and all sorts of cool stuff. I have everything from $2 cards all the way upward to $1,200 cards and then some. I actually have a $1,500 card in my eBay store right now. So definitely support Small Business Saturday. Definitely support what I do. Got a lot of comics in my eBay store. And definitely do it on Saturday because you got to support small businesses, guys. If you want small business to survive, you got to support them. And as I've been saying for a long time, go to my eBay store and if you're looking for cards, comics, browse through it. If you don't see what you're looking for, shoot me a message on eBay. If I have it, I'll list it. If I don't have it, I will tell you it doesn't exist. And if it does exist and I don't have it, as I've been saying for a long time, I will then tell you that, hey, I don't have it. I know it exists. This is the person who does have it. Here's their contact info, and they'll hook you up because I got a lot of friends in the industry. So having said all that, shoot me a message on eBay if you're looking for stuff, because if I don't have it, I know somebody who does. And that's the whole point. And I want to help you get what you need to get for your collection. And I want you to be happy whether I sell to you or somebody else does. So having said all that, I'm going to give you the final word.
I don't have much to say. I think I said a lot. Just back Dream Match Revolution 1 and 2 today. You guys have about 10 days until it is finished. And by 10 days, I mean you have till the 30th of November.
And I don't think I could have said that any better myself, buddy. And that is a wrap.